Good evening and welcome to episode 16 of Talking Trash. I'm James Langfield.
I'm Bohan, and this is going to be a very, 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 very loose format tonight, folks.
Yeah, tonight we're not doing our usual top five because, one, I completely forgot that we were going live tonight until about 15 minutes beforehand, and I think so did Bohan.
Yep, not a fucking clue. I'd completely blanked.
It's fine. So, tonight we're just going to talk about random stuff and maybe touch on the Extreme Rules pay per view that's just been. Complete disclosure, I haven't seen a single match. All I've done is read the results. So I think we'll go through this as not as quickly as possible. Just go through this and see what Bohan thought of it because I haven't got a fucking clue what happened.
Well, I watched the whole thing bar one match, so I can easily talk about some of it. You can guess which match I didn't fucking watch.
Exactly. If it involves Roman Reigns, nobody's watching that fucking match because
Yeah,
nobody.
it pretty much gets fast forwarded through now, and I felt real guilty because Bobby Lashley, one of my fucking boys, but there's no way, not even for Lashers, that I can sit through that shit.
Ah, no. Right. So let's get this kicked off. Probably a completely moot point, but did you in any way, shape, or form watch the pre-show?
Is that even a question worth asking anymore?
Probably not. Nobody watches the pre-show, although it does seem that some good matches happened. Andrade Almas beat Sin Cara. I mean, those two have gone around the block a few times against each other, so that probably would have been interesting. And then Sanity defeated the New Day in a tables match. Both of those were pretty short matches. Andrade's match was only 7 minutes, and the tables match was only 8 minutes. So it's pretty interesting. But other than that, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, I might actually. I'm going to be honest. I might go back and watch that just to see Almas versus Sin Cara to see if it manages to remain botch free over that short period of time. Spoiler alert: I don't think it will, but I mean, I'll watch it and see how it was.
That's true. Okay, so we head to the main card now. Actually, no, I did see a little bit of this. I did see the first match, and that's all I've seen so far. But I've seen the first match, and that was the B team of Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel going up against Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. And for me, surprisingly, taking the titles.
I actually quite like this match. I didn't like that they teased me with the brother versus brother shit and then tagged them out, but I should have saw it coming at this point. It was a good match overall. Both teams worked really well, and Bo Dallas finally has a belt again. Another one that's one of my boys. It was real nice to see how happy they were. It was fucking adorable to actually see the two of them because there was a genuine sense of excitement on their faces. Like, we took this ridiculous gimmick and ran with it. That seems to be how you get to the top of the tag division.
Oh no, definitely. And like I said, the whole brother v brother thing, the Bray versus Bo, I was looking forward to that. I was hoping it was going to come to something. Unfortunately, it didn't. Maybe this is just a pipe dream down the line. Maybe we'll get Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt against the B team in some sort of match at the Hardy compound, and Bo Dallas gets put into the lake of reincarnation and joins his brother in and being woken. Bohan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, my Wi-Fi dropped out. Sorry.
No worries. I was just saying I'd like it if eventually at some point you have Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt in like an ultimate deletion at the Hardy compound against the B team, and have Bo and Curtis get chucked into the lake of reincarnation, and they both get woken.
It would be cool. The problem is if you dump Curtis Axel into the Lake of Reincarnation, you might get McGillicuddy back.
Oh God, no one wants to hear Michael McGillicuddy. That's a ridiculous name.
He's the gully bully, so he is. No one remembers that shit, but I do.
No. Oh, imagine if they ended up putting Bray back into the lake and he comes out as fucking Husky Harris.
I'm pretty sure that joke was vetoed. I think that would have been suggested the last time.
Because that would have been quite funny.
I think he just wants to forget that ever happened, though.
Although there was a brilliant, this is going back a few years, but there was a someone tweeted Bray about Husky saying what happened to the tank with with the Ferrari engine, and he said he needed a change and I needed a vessel.
Yeah.
It's like, thank you, Bray, for keeping it creepy.
Yep. He's done a great job though, just embedding that fucking gimmick into literally everything he does.
It's great. I love Bray Wyatt. I love his gimmick. It's fantastic, and hopefully we can get some more of that and maybe see them have a longer run with the belts. It would have been nice.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, we have Finn Balor up against Baron Corbin. Finn Balor defeated Baron Corbin. That's as much as I know. What did you make of it, Bohan?
So here's the problem with this matchup to begin with. Big guy versus little guy. We all know how WWE books that. Corbin's not the guy to carry that match. He's not. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't fucking 5 stars either. It was all right for what it was, and it ended in a roll up. It was really just sort of, this felt like it was something for both guys to do to get a payday. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. I think this is just them still trying to keep Fergal away from the main event scene for a wee bit. Something will eventually happen here, but this match was fuck all to write home about. It wasn't as terrible as some of the stuff that came later on the card. It wasn't exactly the best match of the night either.
Okay. After that, and I've read the reviews and everybody kind of shitting on it, rightfully so. We had Carmella up against Asuka with James Ellsworth suspended above the ring in what can only be described as a please buy our gimmick merchandise match.
Right, so this match, right, like fucking. Before I proceed to shit all over it, I'm gonna give it its slight due. See, as far as these Shark Cage matches go, you know what's coming. You know that there's going to be a weapon chucked out from it. There were, in fact, 2 in the first couple of minutes. But then there was a spot where Ellsworth picked the lock and got hung up from the cage from the comical bandana he was wearing up and down his legs. Now, they didn't do a good enough job of covering the hook that he was on that kept them hanging from it. But I'm willing to let that slide because honestly, seeing him hang up in that and getting hit was kind of funny. I genuinely liked that spot. From that point onwards, so it was sort of 4 minutes of actual wrestling, about a minute of here's a couple of gimmicks, a chain and a fucking hairspray bottle, and then Ellsworth hanging, Asuka beating the shit out of him. This went on for about 2.5 minutes, and then Asuka gets thrown into the cage because it's low enough for her head to hit it, and rolled up at that point. And I'm watching that and I'm going, why are we fucking doing this? If you don't have enough faith in the person that you've fucking built on to defend it for more than 5 minutes in an actual fucking wrestling match, don't put the fucking belt on them. It's literally as simple as that. Yeah, it would have really fucking sucked to have the first women's Money in the Bank winner cash and fail. But see, at the same time, it would have been a damn sight better than putting the belt on someone who you have no faith to actually run in. I mean, it's just fucking redundant at that point. It would have made more sense to just have the failed cash in and accept that you made a complete cunt of it rather than trying to salvage something from it. It's done. This entire belt run is just, I'm waiting for it to be over. It's going to be a non-event. No one's going to remember this title run.
I mean, that's a shame because at the moment, Carmella, yeah, she's green as hell and she's not good.
Do you know what? I don't think she's that green because watching the early stuff at NXT, she was always the best of the 3 of them. Although she's not the one of the 3 that you would expect to still be working at the company at this point. I genuinely feel like she's got the ability to work the matches. I don't think she doesn't have the talent. I think they don't have the faith, and those are 2 different things.
And it does, and the problem with having Ellsworth is fine if he is a compliment in terms of he's helping but not overshadowing. But the moment you bring James Ellsworth back into the fold, you're overshadowing your women's champion because everybody just wants to see Ellsworth get his ass handed to him, rather than let's see what happens with Carmella. It's no, Carmella comes out with James.
And the ones who don't want to see that are the ones who remember what happened the last time he was there. It's a no-win scenario having him there at this point. I don't mind him being employed. I don't mind him working comedy angles like his feud with AJ. I don't mind that shit. I happen to be a fan of some like sort of taking the piss spots and stuff like that. I don't mind that shit being it has its place on the card. I just don't see the fucking point in him being there in this capacity. It's just completely redundant. And if you're ever going to build her and you ever want fans to see her as more, you have to actually give her the time to show that she can do more and book her like she can do more. You're not doing that. It's never going to happen.
No, it's almost as if they think James Ellsworth is Carmella needs James Ellsworth almost like a crutch. Like she can't be a heel champion unless she's got James beside her. But James isn't. He's not propping her up. He's overshadowing her. She needs to step out from the shadow of James Ellsworth, and whilst he's there, she's never going to be able to do that. And it is a shame that they keep on going. You need him there with you. We want you to have James Ellsworth. We need somebody to be alongside you because that's what a heel does. A heel has someone alongside them to prop them up, someone to help them out, someone to help them cheat. Not every heel needs that. It's not. I don't see why WWE seem to be stuck in the past.
I can tell you why, though. I can tell you why very easily, and it's not so much a matter of being stuck in the past. When you've got 10 hours worth of TV content to produce a week, you need an easy cut and paste gimmick that you can club in at any space that makes sense in the pay per view and that you can write easy angles for. Ellsworth is your placeholder there, and Carmella sadly is getting the knock on effect of that. He's literally just there so the creative don't have to think too hard about where storyline's going to go with her right now. Sadly, because of the amount of content they have, it's a necessary evil. I just wish they'd put something in the fucking mid card or some shit like that. I don't see why you feel the need to value one of your women's championships that much. It's just fucking stupid.
No, precisely. But moving on from there, we had Shinsuke Nakamura against Jeff Hardy for the US title. I've read some of the stuff that said before the bell, Shinsuke hit Jeff with a low blow, then hit him with the Kinshasa, won the match 6 seconds later. Then Randy Orton comes out, gets a massive pop, and then proceeds to beat down Jeff Hardy himself, having the Randy Orton heel turn. I'm looking forward to seeing that because it's about time Randy did something because his gimmick was getting stale and nobody really cared. So maybe giving them back a heel gimmick is going to give him a shot in the arm that he fucking needed. And it was about time that Shinsuke...
I don't know. I kind of feel like Randy Orton's the new Big Show. He's the new guy that turns whenever they don't feel like they have anything for him or they need someone to play that role. And it's about as effective as Big Show at this stage. It's like, oh yeah, Randy Orton's turning heel again. Okay.
I don't know. I think that, if Randy can play it right and, if he can show off a level of like almost brutality that he had previously, maybe he teases the punt kicks and that sort of thing, goes back to that sort of heel. That would be interesting. It doesn't have to be a kind of a flip flop like you have with the Big Show, in which you turn heel, face heel in the space of one show. But it would be interesting to see Randy do some stuff with that and have that feud with Jeff going forward is definitely going to be interesting. And like I said a minute ago, it's about damn time that they put some gold on Shinsuke Nakamura. And I'm loving his heel work.
This match, I mean, from what I've read, sadly, Jeff Hardy's kind of getting to a point again where his back's not really in the best state, nor is his neck. So, like, the whole 5 second element of this was out of necessity rather than creative sort of, this will be a good idea, I'll go on, it'll be funny. Which is fair enough. If the guy's not in a fit state to work, I understand. You do what you can, you work around it, you get the belt off him. He'll be able to come back when he's ready. He's not even doing the swanton anymore, apparently, because of the state of his back. So, like, I find it real hard to on this match. The Randy Orton stuff felt very much to me like an afterthought. I don't think they know where they're going with it, but hell, he stamped Jeff in the bollocks, and that was pretty much it. A beat down strong for kind of what happened, but like, I honestly, it's good that Shinsuke's got a belt. Maybe they'll do something interesting with him with it. I hope Jeff Hardy feels better soon. I hope this isn't the start of a big reel as well, because like he's going to need something for the pain. I'd really like not to see a return to what happened at Victory Road. I was pretty harsh on him in previous years over that. To be fair, being a bit more mature now. Like addiction's a hard thing to handle, and it's a real shame. And it was horrible to see somebody who I'd cared so much about as a child come out like that. And I think that was why like I had such a sort of adverse reaction to it when it happened. This match was pretty much just space on the card that had to be filled. That was what ended up happening. It could have went to someone else. They could have split it up in some other way, but this was space on the card where they were kind of like, well, whatever we had planned can't go here now. We better do something.
Yeah, no, I can get where you're coming from there. But it will certainly be interesting to see where Shinsuke goes as the US champion going forward. Um, After that, we had Kevin Owens up against Braun Strowman in a steel cage match. I know that Braun lost the match by chucking Kevin off the top of the cage, and Kevin landed on the floor through a table. So again, taking an absolutely massive bump from Braun, which I always enjoy Braun Strowman chucking people through tables, chucking stuff, putting stuff over, smashing stuff. It's Braun. I love Braun Strowman. Yes, he lost the match, but I'm not too bothered about that. Braun Strowman can lose a match. It doesn't really affect his credibility because he's a brick shithouse and can do whatever the fuck he wants at this point, kayfabe wise.
Well, it doesn't really affect your credibility when you throw a guy off a cage and you walk away laughing at him either. For what it's worth, like clearly the story of this match was Kevin Owens wanted to win it. Braun Strowman just wanted to make him suffer, and both of them got what they wanted in the weirdest way. Like I guess Celine Dion owes him that song now because I don't know if you saw the video, but what she said was if he beat Braun Strowman when she come back to Montreal, she'd play like his favorite song. Can't remember what song it was, but like I found that whole video delightful. Uh, as far as that goes, it was a good match. It was really like sort of the story of this match was look at the wily heel Kevin Owens trying to get out and then taking any cheap shot that he gets on Braun Strowman. He held his own. Both guys looked good. Strowman really went over, even though he didn't win. I mean, like, it wasn't even like he threw him out and he had that traditional heel reaction of fuck, what have I done? Why did I do that? That was stupid. He threw him out. He landed through the table. Strowman climbed down, stood for a minute, looking really pensive, like he didn't know what he was going to do, and then just started laughing his ass off on the way out and talking about how he'd thrown Kevin Owens off the cage. If you're gonna lose a match and you only lose it in a technical fashion, like I mean, realistically, yeah, the winner of the match by the rules of the match was Kevin Owens. When he's getting stretchered out and you're laughing at him, it doesn't matter who gets the W in the fucking record books. It really doesn't.
Precisely, and that's why I love Braun Strowman. Hopefully, come SummerSlam, he can cash in his briefcase and we can have Braun Strowman as a champion. Because that
Well,
hopefully
they've talked about stripping Strowman, not stripping Strowman, sorry, stripping Lesnar of the belt. The angle is if he doesn't turn up to a Raw, he's going to get sacked. He's going to get his belt stripped off and whatever. I kind of feel like you're going to get possibly a rematch, Lashley versus Reigns for the belt, and then fucking Strowman cashing in on whoever wins. I really hope it's Lashley in which case, because Lashley fucking Strowman could be quite the feud. Two huge ass guys, one who can really guide the other. That's got money written all over it for me.
definitely. Vince McMahon hopefully can see that as well. Unfortunately, he's got his head so far up Roman Reigns' ass that he can only see Roman Reigns.
Well, we'll come back to that. We will come back to that because, like, I feel like I've got something to say about that. But as we progress through the card, its moment will come up.
Fair enough. So next on the card was the Bludgeon Brothers of Harper and Rowan up against Team Hell No, reuniting as Daniel Bryan and Kane. I know here that they had a whole injury angle where the Bludgeon Brothers had beaten up Kane backstage. Then Daniel Bryan came out, was fighting by himself. Then Kane came out halfway through the match, or midway through the match, wherever it was. Delivered one choke slam, tried to deliver a second, but couldn't. And ultimately, the Bludgeon Brothers teamed up on Daniel Bryan, and the Bludgeon Brothers are still the champions. I thought that WWE missed a trick here. I felt that if they were bringing back Team Hell No, now was the time when they're red hot to put the belts on Team Hell No and give Daniel Bryan a title that he richly deserves.
They didn't expect him to be back, though. I mean, again, what we have to remember about Daniel Bryan is that no one thought he was going to be able to wrestle again. No one. No one thought he was going to be back here towards the end of his contract in a position where he was actively competing again. And it really shows in what they've done with him storyline wise. I think they shoved Team Hell No together to sell a few t shirts, pop the fans a wee bit, do something with it. I think they've got longer term plans for the Bludgeon Brothers. I feel like this match wasn't terrible. Again, it was nothing to write home about. It, Daniel Bryan worked the two guys really well. The what the fuck factor came out when Kane came out in the full ankle boot, like the full fucking protective boot, because he had supposedly up his ankle and delivered the two choke slams. That was a surreal moment to watch a man walking down through his entrance music, and one of those like fucking protective boots was just bizarre. This feels very much again like a case of creative's got nothing for you. We better find something for you because the fans are going to be disappointed if you're not in the card. I think in a couple of months' time, we'll see Daniel Bryan in a position he probably should be in. I think it'll likely be him and Strowman because I feel like that's got the most net gain to come from it. But ultimately, it's a case of just letting this one play out until something happens with it.
No, I can understand you there. Like I say, from my point of view, I'd like to have seen that, but I can get where you're coming from. The Daniel Bryan, like I said, no one was ready for him to come back. No one really expected him to come back. It was one of those things that kind of came out. It was a shot out of left field, if you will. That Daniel Bryan had gone to all these doctors and finally they go, "Yep, you're allowed to wrestle." And Daniel Bryan really gets released on all the news articles, and then WWE like, "Oh shit, Daniel Bryan can wrestle again. Oh fuck, what do we do?"
I mean, we will eventually get to a point, I think, where they know what they're going to do with him. I don't think that's coming until the few long term storylines they've booked throughout the day. Usually, the refresh button gets hit after a big four, so like probably after SummerSlam, we'll see them start to turn a corner and work out what they're doing with him. For now, it's just filler to play out the storylines because there's not a space for him.
Maybe, and this is just thinking outside, not even outside the box, thinking about Daniel Bryan. Maybe they hold off on anything major till the Rumble. Bryan wins the Rumble, gets another WrestleMania moment.
Possibly. I wouldn't be averse to that. It's just work out what you're going to do with him in the interim if that's the case. Like, I'm willing to let you slide for a couple of months here. Shove him in a mid card belt scene. Doesn't matter if he wins it. I mean, the IC belt's shit fucking hot right now. There's no reason he couldn't be involved in that.
Well, it looks like from this week's SmackDown. I mean, I've just read the results and read the reviews on Bleacher Report, but on this week's SmackDown, you had the whole Daniel Bryan Miz feud seems to be taking off finally. So maybe that could hold Daniel Bryan and the Miz for a while because those two guys can go back and forth for
Well,
a
that
long
that
time.
could certainly hold my interest. That could be feud of the year material, to be honest.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that because you're gonna end up, they're gonna rehash the stuff from talking smack, and then there's gonna have the history where wasn't the Miz was Daniel Bryan's mentor in NXT when he was down there, so you got the whole student becomes the master kind of thing, and that whole stuff, and how Daniel Bryan was in the Indies, so he didn't need a mentor, so we've got all this stuff, all this history that these two have between them, which is perfect for the storyline if they're going to go down that route.
It'll be worthwhile if that's what they're going to do. We'll wait and see what they do.
Yep. After that match, it was the match that Bohan skipped, and I probably would have skipped, or at least gone and made a cup of tea and taken a 15-minute shit. It was Bobby Lashley beating Roman Reigns. Or Bobby Lashley beat Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, for a second, go back over that sentence. Like, to really understand what happened here, I hit the fast forward button going through this, jumped in pretty much at the right moment. Oh, he was first. Now I remember.
So I didn't quite catch that a second ago there, Bohan.
Am I dead? Right.
No, no, I
Yeah,
can
some
hear you.
connection
That's okay.
some connection issues very briefly. Yeah, like I fast forwarded through that, got to the end. Vince's boy first about that.
It's just weird. I mean, I saw that. I was like, "What?" Bobby Lashley wins, and Roman, and that was clean. It wasn't even a dirty pin. It wasn't even Bobby Lashley going heel and or Roman Reigns going heel and getting himself disqualified. I was like, what's going on? Roman Reigns lost a match. Holy crap!
Clean spear then again.
Roman Reigns lost to a
Bobby
single
Lashley was
spear.
his boss. Lashley, back when the whole ECW thing was going, that was what the plan was. The fans just didn't take to Bobby Lashley the first time. They've done it right this time. It might work out. Roman Reigns could well find himself placed on waivers or somewhere on SmackDown doing something far away from Bobby Lashley because no one's going over Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is his boy.
Thank God for that, because I'm sick and tired of it being Roman Reigns.
I'm more than happy for it to be Bobby Lashley. I think the fans just needed enough time away from him to appreciate how good he was. Occasionally, once in a blue moon, a guy comes along in amongst a group of like sort of really talented wrestlers, and he's not quite there yet, but they push him and he just doesn't get over. As soon as that depth of talent drops a little bit, there's a space for him on the card. Finally happened for Bobby Lashley, and it wasn't that he wasn't as good as a wrestler as Cena or Orton. He just wasn't as polished on the mic at the time, and they tried to push him as he was. Big, silent, I'm going to beat the shit out of you heel or face, doesn't matter which you want to play him as, he works. He's going to end up like somewhere in this title picture. That's been Vince's plan since day one. He just had to get rid of him for long enough that people forgot that they didn't like him.
No, I can agree with you there. I'm glad that Bobby Lashley is back and is kind of taken. Hopefully, has taken some of the stink out of his TNA. No, his TNA run was good. He did well in TNA. But
Oh
you know,
yeah, and I mean, in between that, the stuff he was doing at Bellator was pretty good as well.
yeah, I'm not seeing his run in Bellator. So I know he did. Obviously, he did TNA and he did legit stuff in Bellator as well. So it would be certainly interesting to see how they go if they are going to have some sort of Bobby Lashley, not Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, maybe a pseudo MMA style fight.
I think the two of them will work that kind of match regardless of the step that you put them in though, because they both do have styles that are very influenced by shoot fighting in the first place.
Nah, definitely. It would be interesting, definitely, to see how that goes. But moving on from that, we had Alexa Bliss against Nia Jax in an Extreme Rules match for the Raw Women's Championship. Now, I know Ronda jumped the guardrail midway through the match, and I know that Alexa Bliss beat Nia Jax from obviously it's an Extreme Rules match, so weapons got used. Then Ronda Rousey chased Alexa Bliss around the ring. Almost got her hands on Alexa, but didn't. So obviously that's setting up that feud. But certainly, I like Alexa as the champion, and it's certainly going to be interesting seeing Alexa and Ronda at SummerSlam.
Worked the match, enjoyed it. Gonna give you this little nugget from commentary, by the way, seeing as you haven't seen it, and this is quite frankly one of the best things I've heard on commentary in quite some time. So you've got Jonathan Coachman and Corey Graves, and they're in the process of basically the spot was Alexa pulls a weapon out, swings it at Nia Jax, and then I don't know if you can hear that by the way. Like my Alexa speaker heard me say that name and just picked it up. Like this is a real problem. So like Bliss, like is pulling out weapons. She's swinging them at Jax. Jax is grabbing them and throwing them into the ring. The ring is starting to resemble something from AEW house show. Coach goes, "How much stuff do we have under the ring?" Corey, without missing a beat, turns to him and goes, "Well, we keep kendo sticks under there in case of ninjas." So, like, I lost my shit at that. I thought that was hilarious. That was one of the best things I've heard in a while. I mean, on that alone, even if the match had been terrible, I'd be willing to get a pass. It wasn't. It worked all right. It was very much the epitome of like a sort of WWE booked Extreme Rules match, kendo stick spots, couple of trash can spots, couple of chair spots. As a connoisseur of weapons wrestling, it was a solid sort of 3 out of 5. It again was a good match. It showcased both of them quite well. The finish was what you expect from these things. Like as soon as you see lots of gimmicks going in the ring, you think this is going down a very Vince Russo path, and then it always invariably does. It was what it was. It's there to set up something bigger. I wish they'd let Nia hold on to that belt for a bit longer. I don't mind Alexa Bliss as champion either. They're just killing time till SummerSlam. This was effectively the go home Raw stretched out to 3.5 hours for SummerSlam.
And hopefully, we get some good matches out of SummerSlam. Looking forward to seeing what happens there. But next match on the card, it was AJ Styles against Rusev on Rusev Day of all days for the WWE Championship.
And every day is still Rusev Day. My God, this was the best match of the night, probably, possibly bar the main event. It's a real tight race in that one, but like honestly, I kind of enjoyed this. It was a great match between the two of them. They both looked great. Rusev looked a million fucking bucks, and AJ sold for him like fuck. The pair of them couldn't have looked better. It would have been hard to get a bad match out of these two realistically at the point in their careers where they're at. I see big things for Rusev at some point. I just hope creative decide that the time is soon and pull the trigger. But like it was good. It was really, really good. AJ can make anyone look great, but he can take somebody who already looks great and make them look like a fucking superstar. And that's what he did.
That is fantastic. I mean, I love Rusev, and I love Rusev A because he's fantastic in the ring, B because he looks great when he's doing it, and C Aiden English. Aiden English had had this gimmick when he was in NXT. It wasn't working for some reason down in NXT, so they teamed him with Simon Gotch and created the Ford Villains. That went to Raw, and that didn't get over. Simon Gotch got himself fired, and then Aiden English is floundering around with his same NXT singing gimmick, gets paired with Rusev, and it gets massively over. And it is fantastic. I am loving Aiden English.
I think you could attach just about anything to Rusev right now and it would get over, though. The guy's a fucking workhorse. And one of the reasons Rusev works so well is he's got the same thing that the New Day have. Regardless of the gimmick you give him, he's got that big ass goofy smile on his face and he gets on with stuff. When he first came in and he worked as a serious heel, it's not like he didn't work. It's not like it wasn't interesting to see him come out in a fucking tank to face Cena and shit like that. But they've really embraced his personality. He's so much like the New Day in terms of his gimmick. Like he just has this big goofy, I'm going to play around and big fucking soft thing that will beat the shit out of you if provoked kind of attitude. It works for him, and I think that's why you can attach just about anyone to him, and it'll work because that kind of energy is infectious. It really is. Like the reason the New Day all work so well together is because Kofi, Biggie, and Xavier are three guys who are like that. When you play them off one another, it's insane. Rusev, you can play just about anyone off of them right now, and they're gonna get a rub off it.
And that's why I like Aiden English singing gimmick, and I like hearing him sing Rusev Day. It's just, I love it. I just love hearing him go, "It's Rusev Day." I love it.
I mean, it's outrageous enough to work what's going on. He's the solo New Day, and it works for him. I'm happy for him.
Exactly. And then, last but not least, we had the main event, which was a 30-minute Iron Man match where Dolph Ziggler went up against Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. Dolph Ziggler beat Seth Rollins 5-4 in sudden death overtime. I like an Iron Man match, but I don't like an Iron Man match with too many falls. I would rather one or two at the most.
Do you know what? I get what you're saying, but I feel like it was played well in this. So, like, to give you some background on what happened, we went about 4 or 5 minutes before the first fall. Rollins took a fall clean. Goes down by Rollins goes up by 2. Drew Galloway gets up on the fuck Drew Galloway. I keep referring to him by his actual name rather than his slave name. WWE are going to be all on me. Drew McIntyre gets up on the ring, fucking gets in there, beats the living shit out of Seth Rollins, like absolutely beats seven shades out of him, concedes another fall in the process, just continues to stomp him down, and coach on commentary goes, well, but unless he gets two falls, it's not really worth it. And you get two very quick falls because he's beat the living shit out of him. So, like, you've got to remember that while four of those falls came in a 10-minute period, two of them were very well, three of them coincidentally were very throwaway, and it played into the story. And we then had like sort of 10-15 minutes of solid wrestling with no falls and a couple of falls towards the end. It was structured very well. The overtime fall was interesting because Drew had been thrown out of the match, came back out at the end, stood up in the apron, and Ziggler just ran in, hit the finisher, fucking rolled him up and took the fall. Classic heel work. Shawn Michaels and Diesel 2.0 are working very well together right now. I see no reason not to do that. It seems to have been the shot up the arse that Dolph Ziggler so desperately needed. It's worked out well for the both of them. I'm waiting for Dolph to turn on him and go for his. I'm waiting for Drew to turn on him and go for his belt. But like while they're working together right now, I see no reason why not to get on board with this. It's worked quite well. Big counts in terms of falls are for hour and a half Ironman matches, generally speaking. But at least the way it was done here made sense. The scoreline makes it seem like it was a lot more sort of packed and a lot more rushed than it actually was. It was just how the storyline played out in the match, you know?
No, fair enough. I can understand your point there. Certainly, if the amount of falls does definitely um, advance the storyline, the story they're trying to tell in the ring, then certainly I'm not against it. But like I said, I haven't seen the match, so I was just going off of what I'm reading on my screen. So certainly I can see your point there and how you describe it. Definitely seems that the psychology was definitely there, and this is how we're going to tell this story. It's going to fit into what we want to do going forward, and certainly I am enjoying Dolph and Drew working together. Like you said, it is Shawn Michaels and Diesel 2.0, but that works. And it's going to keep on working until we get to the point which Shawn and Kevin got to where, he thinks he's bigger than the guy who has the belt and he's going to go after it. That's the natural implosion of that is going to happen at some point. And I'd rather it happen later than sooner because I'm liking what they're doing and I like where they're going. And it certainly seems that Dolph Ziggler finally cares about wrestling again.
I mean, that was really the thing. That was the story of this match for me. Like, forget everything else that happened in it and the way it was structured and the real heel work that went on there. We saw a Dolph Ziggler that we haven't seen in quite some time. The workhorse Dolph Ziggler that's willing to flip sell and shit like that, but not to the point where it's Shawn Michaels versus Hogan. Also, I'm pretty going to have something to say about that. Can't pretty much just directly, but as far as that whole thing went, like fucking that match was great. Both of them looked absolutely fantastic, and both of them sell to about the same degree anyway. So it was really just like it was like fucking the human equivalent of Conkers. It really was like they were going flying and shit, working so well. Both of them were working at like 110. It feels like what happens with Ziggler after having watched this is that he gets in the ring with someone who's not going to work that high octane style, and he kind of loses interest. When you give him someone like Seth Rollins who's willing to play with him, it works. It really does work. You just don't have enough guys like that to keep him in rotation for long enough to do it.
No, it is interesting to see what we're doing. I would like to see Dolph Ziggler hold on to that for a while, and we'll see what happens there going forward. But that was the card in whole, and we'll see what happens going forward there. Just looking at in just random articles here now, and one of them was the most overrated WWE superstars today. Guess who's number one on that list, Bohan?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's Reigns.
No, according to Bleacher Report, or the guy who works for Bleacher Report, his name is Anthony Mango. He classifies Brock Lesnar as the most overrated superstar in WWE today.
How can he even remember at this point?
It's true. I'm sick of Brock. We know he's going
Look,
to have his.
I'm gonna I'm going to toe a line here. I have no problem with Brock Lesnar other than he doesn't turn up. When he turns up, I get some entertainment out of it. When they stick him against someone other than Reigns, I get something interesting. We get spots we just don't see elsewhere, like someone gushing with fucking blood. The matches are entertaining, that sort of car crash, I can't look away sort of fashion. He can work if he wants to. I don't feel like we can blame Brock Lesnar for this though, because honestly, Brock Lesnar never liked touring. Brock Lesnar never liked the house show circuit. Brock Lesnar never liked doing half the shit you've got to do as a wrestler because Brock Lesnar doesn't like other human beings and he doesn't want to spend time with them. That's why he lives in the fucking woods in Canada with his wife and kid. Like, you give a guy like that the opportunity to dictate the terms of his own contract, of course he's going to turn around and go, I want to work as few dates as possible and I want to be in the biggest spot I can. And it's more fool you for fucking accepting that. Blaming Lesnar isn't the solution, blaming the company is.
No, I can completely agree with you. You know, it was stupid of Vince or Trips or whoever the fuck negotiated with Brock Lesnar the terms of his contract, because it's the age-old adage: you give a guy an inch and he's gonna fucking take a mile, and that is exactly what Brock Lesnar did. They were like, "What do you want, Brock? Here's everything I want. Here's how much I want to be paid. Here's when I'm gonna work. Here's when I'm not gonna work. I will do jobs for these people. I won't do jobs for these people. This is what I'm gonna do." And they just did everything that Brock wanted to do. It's as if they were scared that by Brock not working for the company, they'd lose money or people would go and watch UFC because that's where Brock is. I don't think that Brock is a bigger draw as WWE think Brock is a big of a draw. Paul Heyman comes out.
I think what really happened here was TNA probably put in a very serious offer for him.
Yeah, but,
Honestly, I reckon that's what it was.
yeah, but if TNA are going to put in an offer and WWE just knee jerk make a counter offer, and it gets into some sort of fucking bidding war. The only person who wins that is Brock Lesnar, because obviously,
Yeah, and that's their own fault for playing that game because if they'd let him go to TNA and he'd only turned up once every 3 or so months, it wasn't really going to boost their profile anyway.
no, precisely, it's not going to do much, and they could have gone, okay, you work for UFC. Oh, sorry, you go and work for TNA, and we'll slap you around. We'll slap you with a 90-day. We'll slap you with a no compete clause, and you can turn up for TNA when we decide you're allowed to.
I mean, there was nothing to stop them doing it though, because like if he decided to go to TNA at that stage, he already won his lawsuit, won his first contract. They brought him back out of I feeling like if someone else had him, he might work some shows on the indies and stuff like that and really boost the market profile. He might even end up at Ring of Honor. They might have something they can actually do with him, and then Paul Heyman goes with him. I understand why they knee jerked. I do not understand the extent to which they did.
No, it is absolutely crazy the amount of stuff they've given Brock Lesnar, and now he's agreed, and Dana White has already announced it, that Brock versus Cormier is going to happen. Brock's gonna need the time to go into a training camp. So when is he gonna have the belt either stripped of him, or when is he gonna drop the belt, because he can't hold on to that indefinitely and still train, because he's not gonna have the time to do a training camp and potentially have a match at SummerSlam, or have a match earlier than that, or later than that in regards to that. So unless he's going to retain
I
the WWE title at SummerSlam, and no one's going to cash in against him, and then he's going to take the time off to have a training camp immediately after SummerSlam, and then go on to try and beat Cormier to be the first ever person to hold the WWE title and the UFC title at the exact same time.
yeah, right. I'll let you have that. The big belt. But it's worth noting that in terms of holding UFC titles and wrestling titles at the same time, I mean, fucking Dan the Beast Severn did that shit ages ago because those original super fight titles never changed hands because they don't. They were tournament belts. Like when he wins that, that's him. He is officially till he dies a UFC champion, and he will be recognised as such until said.
No, I understand that. I mean, like the actual, the
Yeah,
belts
the
that
big
change.
one.
Yeah.
I don't feel like either of them want that. WWE are too busy fucking catfighting with each other to actually accept that that might be something that's good for both businesses anyway. At the end of the day, I imagine it's probably a base tenant of his UFC deal that he needs to be out of WWE by the time he's doing it. We'll see what happens. I honestly though, for all of Dana White's fucking pissing and moaning about professional wrestling and how he wants to be different to it, he sure does promote his business an awful lot like it. I realise I've said this before on here, but we're at a point now where we're looking at a 36, 37-year-old, I think DC is. It could be 38 even, and a 43-year-old fighting over the heavyweight belt. You're either destitute from ideas or you've worked out that you need to put big names on the card to draw fucking faces. Your business must be in decline if you're booking this. Because honestly, I don't even see this as being that great a fight. I think DC will win. I think DC will win in a long time. Like, I think it will take like probably 2.5 rounds. I think Lesnar will probably get another suspension off the back of it, and I think he'll probably retire at this point because he'll later get paid enough off this fight that he can. I don't think he wants to keep doing this. I think he's doing this because he's taking on whether he wins the belt or not. If he doesn't, I think that could be the last we see of Brock Lesnar contact sport in general. Honestly.
And I mean, at that point, do you think that Brock Lesnar is done enough to go into the Hall of Fame, or B is going to get put in just because he's Brock Lesnar and he's got that bigger name to go in there?
You want to be honest? If you look at the first 4-5 years of his career, he probably did enough in that alone that he deserves it. I mean, we take pot shots at Lesnar because of what he's become, but surely you remember that Iron Man match he had with Angle.
Oh, gotcha. That was a fantastic match, and then WrestleMania with Angle as well, and that attempted
Yeah.
shooting star. Yeah.
Yeah, like among that, despite the shooting star botch, if you're willing to overlook that, you can pick out some severely great fucking matches from the start of his career. I feel like he did enough. I feel like the difficulty is he's then gone on to kind of fuck his legacy a wee bit by, well, getting what he wanted. But at the same time, Brock Lesnar doesn't give a shit. I don't think Brock Lesnar will go in the Hall of Fame because I don't think Brock Lesnar cares if he goes in the Hall of Fame or not. Like, I feel like they won't bother. If they do, he probably won't turn up to accept it. If I'm honest, like when he's out there, he's there for the money. He doesn't pretend he's not. I respect that at the very least about Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's a shrewd businessman who got what he wanted out of that contract. He was a great wrestler. He didn't really enjoy it. Fair fucks to the boy. It is what it is, you know.
No, I can understand that. And to be fair, given the fact that we both know, and pretty much it's a not even a hidden secret, it's a common knowledge that Brock Lesnar hates people. Why the fuck would he accept the Hall of Fame induction, given the fact he'd have to come out and give a speech to thousands of people?
Bingo. Brock Lesnar wants to retire to his cabin in the woods, shoot deer, and live the rest of his days in peace, isolated from the rest of the world. I can't say I blame him. I understand. It's probably not the life I'd choose to live. I think I need somewhat more social contact, although as I get older, I realise probably not as much as I may have originally thought. A cabin in the woods in Canada does sound pretty nice, to be fair. I can't say I blame him for any of this. It's just you're putting him in a business that's personality driven, and it's real difficult to want to like someone who doesn't like anyone, or to even want to see someone who doesn't like anyone, because the ones that do best in that business are the people who really give a shit about what they're doing and really enjoy it. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you look like you can't be arsed to be there, I just don't really want to watch that. And I can't blame them for that. You shove enough money in front of someone, they'll do pretty much anything.
No, I can understand that. I'm still looking through this article, and some of these choices that this guy has made make no fucking sense. He's put Finn Balor.
Oh, but that's just because it's cool to hate on him at this stage. Really, that is what it is.
I don't see why he's not overrated. I mean, all you have to do is look back at his New Japan legacy.
He's not overrated, he's underused. There's a fundamental difference, but when it comes to people who generally write on pressers about WWE, they're not people who watch much other content. There are the odd sort of rare sites that are niche and specialist where you get that, but see things like Bleacher Report, ESPN, places like that, you're not going to get a rounded idea of someone's whole body of work. You only ever get the cliff notes of the WWE version. That is what it is. It's the reason I stopped looking at lists like that when they were coming up a while ago. Although I am going to bring this up. So Hogan's reinstatement. What do you think? Can you hear me? Am I dead? I think I'm dead again.
Look, I accidentally pushed the mute button on my mic.
Ah, right. So Hogan's reinstatement. What say ye?
Well, given the fact that it's been common knowledge that Hogan is a racist bigot, he has no reason to be back in the WWE. They should not have him back in the WWE because, as far as I knew, given the evidence that he is what he is, they had removed him from the Hall of Fame and rescinded his induction. So if they're bringing him back into the WWE, does that mean they reinstate him into the Hall of Fame? Because that's ridiculous. He doesn't deserve to be in there. He is not a good human being, and he does not deserve to be back in the WWE in any way, shape, or form. If he's saying that he made a mistake and he's recanted his statements and everything that he said or did was not him, or he was under the influence, or he was possessed by some sort of racist demon, then and he's been exorcised, then maybe we'll give the guy a second chance. But if none of that is any way, shape, or form true, then he can fuck off and die.
Well, the big difficulty is his apology boiled down to "I didn't know I was being recorded."
That's not an
And this
apology.
seems to have been, yeah, I know, right? This seems to have been conveniently glossed over by a lot of fans because, like, fucking, I don't know if you saw, but Kofi released a statement on behalf of New Day and Titus released a statement, and they both said very similar things. And I've got a lot of respect for both sets, actually, because the statements, in essence, said the WWE has a right to state who they want. We have kids, we have families, we have things to pay for, people to support, that kind of shit. We're not gonna really. It doesn't impact us and how we work. At the same time, neither of them seem to believe the apology was sincere enough. No one's actually shown contrition over it. No one's changed. If they see change, they'll accept it. They're not saying they shouldn't give a second chance, but both of them said, no, not second chance should go to someone who actually shows that they are genuinely sorry for what they did, and that's not the case here. And I have a lot of respect for the diplomatic nature that both of them did it in, and the fact that they did it at all, because it's a big fucking it's a big risk to open your mouth about that, even if you're being diplomatic and say, well, you know what, I don't hate him, I just don't care about him, I don't need to deal with him, I'm not going to deal with him. If he changes, I'll change my opinion. It's a big chance you're taking by bringing that up. I, on the other hand, still hate Cunt Hogan. Get him to fuck. He serves no purpose for me. Like, the worst bit was watching the replies to Kofi's statement on Twitter and seeing what honestly was like sort of mostly white people stand up and go, oh, well, you know, if you don't forgive him, it's like you're not giving him a second chance. And it's like, no, well, he has to earn a second chance, doesn't he? And people are like, but he apologized. An apology is saying, I'm sorry, I never should have said what I said, not I'm sorry, I didn't know I was being recorded. People say stupid shit in private.
Just because you say it in private does not make your view in any way, shape, or form less legitimate. Yes, we all say stupid shit in private. I occasionally will make the occasional joke in bad taste in private. Do I mean what I say? No. Would I still say it if I was being recorded? Probably, because I'm that much of an idiot that I will say stupid shit and not care. But I will always make sure that there is a context to why I'm saying what I'm saying. Hogan did not contextualize what he was saying. That was a legitimate view from what can only be described as a racist bigot. He has no standing in the WWE. He does not deserve a second chance unless he can show us, the fans, and I mean anybody who is interacting with him, that he is contrite and he is sincere in his apology. And yes, he did not mean what he said. Then maybe we'll give him a second chance. But until he can show
That's the
that,
grand irony, though. Like, the grand irony is this wasn't an isolated incident. It happened on a radio station in Puerto Rico, which surfaced around the same time but didn't really get the same press, where he used a racial epithet to refer to The Rock and his mixed race heritage. Like, honestly, when there's more than one instance of this as well, and one of them was broadcast to a radio audience outside of your country, so you thought you'd get away with it, it's real hard to look at someone like that and go, there's someone who can change, is it not?
No, I agree with you. I don't think that Hulk Hogan has changed. I don't think he will change, and I don't think his apology was any way, shape, or form sincere. Saying I wouldn't have said that if I was being recorded is saying I would have changed. I would have been a different person. That recording shows the true Hulk Hogan. That recording shows you what kind of man Hulk Hogan is. It doesn't matter if he knew he was being recorded and wouldn't say that, then that means you're not seeing the true Hulk Hogan. He was hiding who he really was. This allowed us to
And
see that.
that is to some degree the saddest bit of this because he's worked with a lot of black guys over his career in the AWA and places like that, and fucking right the way through the WWF and stuff like that. Sadly, quite a few of those guys are dead. The ones that aren't dead aren't really the kind who are going to give shoot interviews, but you've got to imagine there are stories that could be told about Hogan that weren't told at the time for the sake of the business that could absolutely make your fucking toes curl.
Precisely, that guy has got more. That guy's probably got more skeletons in the closet than anybody in that company. You know, and he doesn't deserve to be back. Anybody who is saying that Hulk Hogan deserves a second chance needs to, you know, reevaluate what they think about Hulk Hogan and truly look at the guy and go, hold on a second, he said what? He's done what? He tried to do what? He said this? You need to research the stuff before you just blanket go, he needs a second chance. The guy does not need a second chance. The guy needs therapy. He needs help. He needs to understand that what he said was not right, was not correct. He can't hold those views in modern society and expect to get away with it.
I don't think he needs help. I think he just needs ostracized. I think they were doing the right thing getting rid of him because at this point he's nearly fucking 70. He's not going to change. He's not going to change in any way, shape, or form. Bringing him back in really feels like a big slap in the face to certain members of talent on the roster. It really is. It is in a big bad way. And while guys like Titus and the New Day have been very genial and very diplomatic about it, they had every right to just go, nah, fuck this. Like, honestly, I respect very, very much so that they kind of went on that path where they decided to handle this in a mature fashion and stuff like that. But I would not have said a word if they went, nah, fuck him, he's a racist piece of shit either. Like, it just feels like the worst slap in the face to a bunch of guys who've given nothing but their time to you to bring one in who thinks that they're beneath them, honestly.
I'm just looking at something here now. So. Interestingly, uh, Booker T thinks that Hulk Hogan should not be judged on what he said. He was on.
Booker T thinks a lot of things. I don't always agree with him.
So Booker T was talking to X-Pac on X-Pac's podcast and said, the thing is, when people say stuff behind closed doors, I'm sure you said stuff behind closed doors, direct to Sean. I'm sure everyone in that room has said stuff behind closed doors that they never say in public. Why is the person taping a conversation? They're obviously looking to get something out of it. You got to look at it from that perspective as well. You don't know if someone was drinking or not. There are so many variables that go into that one little episode. I just don't think that in the wrestling business coincide with each other. Do we get to set this thing down, reprimand, suspend him? Of course. But if him to be banned from professional wrestling for that one incident, I mean, come on. That I don't agree with. Let's put it in the past and move forward.
I don't understand that, honestly. Like, it's beyond me to sort of look at that and think, like, that's acceptable. I think a large part of the difference in how the younger and older talent handle this is though, like you've got to remember what Booker T's like 55 at this stage. Like he's a relatively decent age. He was quite young when he was at WCW at first, but like I mean Booker T, as a guy who worked the wrestling scene in the late 80s and early 90s, was probably subjected to a ridiculous level of abuse at quite a few of the places he went to. So I think he's got quite a low bar, honestly, when it comes to this kind of stuff. And that's fair enough for him. He sets his own standards. He chooses to handle that stuff how he wants. But, like, we don't live in the 80s anymore. You can't say that shit and expect for it to just be okay in 6 months' time. It's not.
No, I get what you. It's not okay. You can't just sweep it under the rug. It's there. It's been recorded. It's been broadcast across the internet. It's there forever. Anybody who looks up Hulk Hogan racist is going to be able to find the raw footage, the raw sound bites of what he said. There is no getting away from what he did and what he said. We can't put it in the past anymore. There is evidence to what he did. It's something that we can always look back on and go, yeah, but you've said this before. You've done this before. We can't condone you coming back to WWE because we can't guarantee that you're never going to do this again. You have prior history.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky and the son of a bitch will have a heart attack.
Who knows? We can.
Who knows?
We can but hope.
Yeah.
I mean, but I just don't get it why they think he's good for business, because he's not. Yeah, he might sell a few more t-shirts. They might get a few more t-shirts out of it because people want a Hulkamania t-shirt for whatever fucking reason.
Well, I mean, just look at the States and look at their president. White supremacy is in vogue right now. It makes sense that they think this is an okay time to bring him back.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I just don't know. It's just getting beyond me as to why they keep doing stuff that either fans don't want, or at least the majority of the international audience don't want. Yes, we get that, you're catering to an American audience more so than anybody else because of the fact that you're in America for most of the year. That's where you broadcast your pay-per-views from. That's where you have most of your shows. But you have a larger international audience than you do an American audience. It would be nice to see the fact that you have a wide-ranging views from people, and we don't always want to see this. You have, when they come to the UK, it's one of those things that we are very vocal. Myself, yourself, anybody who's on Talking Trash, we're all very vocal about our love for the wrestling business and the fact that WWE doesn't take into consideration any fans' views. We make ourselves heard and they ignore us consistently. It is a shame, and which is why yourself, myself, we go to ICW, we go to see independent wrestling, because independent wrestling and ICW, in as an example, caters to our sensibilities and what we want to see from professional wrestling. That's what we enjoy. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to hear. But WWE doesn't do that. They cater to primarily an American audience targeted at a younger fan base, which is why we have PG and which is why we don't get the product that we want, or I feel that we deserve. We deserve better wrestling. We deserve a better product. We deserve storylines that make us connect as human beings. We deserve storylines that make us feel something. Nowadays, everything's watered down. Everything is so cookie cutter the same. There doesn't seem to be a lot of differentiation. Everything's being rehashed, and it's just a shame because we look back and we go, well, that was original, this was original. Where's the originality anymore?
Well, if nothing else, at the very least, it'll be hilarious when they put them in front of a crowd of smirks and the chants start. He's given them plenty of ammunition at this stage. I mean, there's no way you put Hogan at this stage in front of an audience that is relatively engaged and they don't either boo him out of the building or start chanting shit at him. It's going to be one or the other. It'll be interesting to see which.
Oh no, definitely, and yeah, I would like to see that happen. Just speaking of ICW, did you see the Lionheart picture they've done?
Oh, the Brave Harto, the
Yeah,
poster. Yeah.
yeah. I messaged back saying that should have been Brave Fanny.
Oh yeah. You know what? He's one of the few that honestly, I don't rate. I feel bad about this. Like, I don't want to get into it too badly, but like, I think the moment for me that really fucked it was when it was at Barrowmania, the last one that was at, and he had a match with Jackie Polo, and after all his talk about the fucking Styles Clash and how dangerous a move it was and how it should be banned, he tried to give it to Jackie Polo and then used it and has used it since. See, at that point, any respect I have for someone fucking crumbles.
No, I can understand that. I mean, if you're saying you want to ban a move and then you go and use that move to say, I don't know what is it, two fingers up to AJ saying this is how you deliver the move when you were the one who tucked your own fucking neck and admitted it was your own fault.
It's real hard to see someone talk about that and talk about how dangerous a move it is and go on a proper tirade and then just use it anyway. It kind of it smacks of false sincerity, realistically.
Oh no, definitely. I for one have met Lionheart, whose real name, and I don't give a shit if he hears this or not and comes back on me, is Adrian McCallum. Adrian McCallum owns Pro Wrestling Elite. Adrian McCallum is a twat. I have met him at least twice, and I've spoken to him at least 2 or 3 occasions. When I had a podcast previously, I invited him to come on and discuss wrestling with us as a professional wrestler. I got a message back from Adrian saying thanks for the invite, but it's not something I'd be interested in. And then he creates his own fucking podcast off his own back. What a hypocritical cunt. I don't like Adrian. I don't like him as a person, and I don't like him as a wrestler. So if you are listening to this, Adrian, and you want to talk further, get in contact. If you don't, I don't give a shit.
Can I moderate that if he does hear it and react? I'd love to be the man in the middle in a podcast argument between you and Lionheart. That seems like a fun job.
I would enjoy talking to Adrian. It doesn't bother me. I've met him. He's not that much of an interesting person to
I,
talk to.
for what it's worth, anyone I know who's ever knew him, because someone that I used to work with worked with him at like a call center that, for legal reasons, shall remain nameless.
Yes,
No one ever seems to have a positive impression of him. Is the only
no.
thing that I've
The
learned.
guy
You know,
brought in the guy brought in one of his belts into the call center. This is a story I heard from somebody who also worked with him. He brought in one of his belts into the call center and tried to incentivize the fact that if you did well, you could hold it.
oh, did that person's name start with a K? But we won't name that person just purely because it's probably someone we both know.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I was told the same story. I remember being told about that. That's where a lot of like sort of what I've learned about him came from because that's the closest interaction anyone I know seems to have had with him. Although I've known a couple of people who've met him kind of briefly. No one really seems to have positive words to say about him. But like the stories she had to tell about him, you kind of sat there and you thought to yourself, yeah, well, this isn't a surprise.
No, you know, it's not. I mean, Craig, who's also on the podcast from time to time, I think he was at least a year or a year in the same year, or a year below, or a year above, or something. He was in school with Adrian at the same time, and he wasn't a nice person in school either, as far as I've heard.
And he draws some arses into buildings. I can't blame them for booking him because he has somewhat of a following. I don't understand it personally. He's not to my tastes. That's the most diplomatic way I can really put it.
Same here. He's not to everyone's taste. I mean, it's not as if he's even really got that much of a original moveset. He's a rock bottom, a styles clash. Every move. I mean, yeah, it's professional wrestling, and moves get stolen left, right, and center. But at least have something somewhat original. These moves that you're doing, Lionheart, they're not original. We know where they've come from. There is no innovation into what you're doing. At least if you're going to take someone's move, put your own stink on it. Do something with it. Just It's just not original, and it's just boring.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, that kind of feels like why he's been overlooked when other guys haven't. That's really all there is to say about it, though, because you don't want to descend into just shooting on an indie wrestler. The guy's got a living to make. I, I, I may not like him, but I feel like we don't want to flog a dead horse too hard, you
No,
know?
definitely not. No, I mean, and independent wrestling doesn't deserve to be flogged. There is a lot of good stuff going on in independent wrestling right now. I mean, look at the stuff in ROH and Bullet Club with Cody and who am I trying to say?
Holy shit, by the way, ITV have knee jerked and World of Sport is happening again.
I know, 28th of July, 5 o'clock, ITV.
How do you feel about it?
Well, Grado's in it, so I'm always happy to see Grado on TV. SoCal Val's a commentator, and so's Stu Bennett. Now, if nobody knows who Stu Bennett is, that's because Stu Bennett is the real life name of the WWE performer who went by the name of Wade Barrett or Bad News Barrett. So yeah, he's a commentator for it as well. And if at some point he doesn't say to somebody he's afraid he's got some bad news, then World of Sport have missed out a trick.
It's going to happen. Anyways, we should probably wrap it. I think we've gone an hour just talking shite here.
We have indeed. We've just gone over an hour, so I think that's probably a good way to stop as any. So from myself, it's good night.
And it's please don't sue us from me.
Nobody's going to sue us. We haven't got any fucking money.
That's a fair point, nor any profile. I mean,
Precisely.
we could say just about anything on here and it would never come back.
Precisely. So, good night, everybody. Hulk Hogan, you're a cunt.
Hulk Hogan, you're a cunt.